Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. I'm back with another video in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Ted Williams. Now, to help me narrow down the choices I had to choose my top 5 favorite, I went with the PSA Basic Set Registry Checklist. That contains 15 Ted Williams cards, starting with his 1939 through 41 play ball cards, his 1949 Leaf card, his 1950, 51, and 54 Bowman cards, his two 1954 Topps cards through 1958 Topps, then his 1959 Fleer card Ted signs for 1959, and his 1960 Fleer card. Now, here's where I would love all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have the link to the PSA Basic Set Registry Checklist for Ted Williams. And from those 15 cards that you can check out, we'd love to know in the comments which are your top 5 favorite Ted Williams cards. And if you could number them 1 through 5, 5 through 1, it will help me compile the results for next week's video. And if there are some cards outside of those 15 that you like of Ted Williams, feel free to put them in the comments as well, and I'll have them as honorable mentions in next week's video. Now, before I get to my top 5 favorite Ted Williams cards, last week's video was on Johnny Bench, and there were a lot of you who put in the comments of that video which were your top 5 favorite Johnny Bench cards. So I'm going to start off by going over the results of all of your comments from last week's video. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Ted Williams cards. I'll show the Ted Williams cards I have in my collection, and we'll wrap things up by spinning the wheel of names again to see which player will be featured in the next episode. So let's get to it. All right, for last week's video on Johnny Bench, there were 16 cards you had to choose from to select your top 5 favorite. It ranged from his 1968 Topps rookie card all the way to his 1983 Topps card. And there were 20 of you who replied in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite Johnny Bench cards. So thank you to all of you who took the time to comment on my video. Now, here are the top 5 cards that were selected by you, and I think for the first time we have a unanimous selection. All 20 of you selected his 1976 Topps card somewhere within your top 5. In second place, a near unanimous selection with his 1969 Topps card. 18 of you selected that card within your top 5. Then we have his 1975 Topps card with 13 of you selecting that card. And then there was a tie for 4th and 5th between his 1970 and 1973 Topps card, with each of them getting 9 selections. Now, out of all his Topps cards, the only 2 cards that did not receive any selections within your top 5 favorite was his 1981 and 82 Topps card. All right, before I get to how these top 5 ranked in terms of 1 through 5, there were several honorable mentions that you put in the comments, so I'm going to get into those. We're starting off with his 1968 Cons Wieners card, then his 1969 Topps All-Star card, his 1970 Kellogg's, then his 1971 Topps Coins card. Now we have some more 71 Topps cards here. We have the 1971 Topps Greatest Moments, then 2 League Leaders cards from the 71 set, the Home Run Leaders and RBI Leaders. Then we have the 1971 Topps Super, the 1972 Topps In Action, the 1984 Fleer card, the 1988 Pacific Legends card, and finally the 2021 Topps Chrome Platinum Anniversary card. All right, let's get into the ranking 1 through 5 that you had in your comments, and we'll compare that to my top 5. All right, in the number 5 spot, you had his 1973 Topps card, which I had as my fourth favorite. In number 4, you had the 75 Topps card, which I had as my fifth favorite. So those two just switch positions between your general comments and my top 5. And then the remaining top 3 are the same as the ones that I chose. At number 3 was his 1970 Topps card, then his 1976 Topps card, and the consensus favorite Johnny Bench card from your comments, and what I consider is my favorite Johnny Bench card, his 1969 Topps card. All right, let's get into Ted Williams. Again, another reminder, you have 15 cards to choose from to pick your top 5 favorite, and for me to pick my top 5 favorite. His 3 play ball cards, the 1949 Leaf, the 3 Bowman cards, and the 54 through 58 Topps cards, and the 2 Flair cards. So at number 5, I decided to select his 1949 Leaf card. For me, I've said it before, the 49 Leaf set is a hit or miss. There's some cards that I really like, others not so much. This one here with the red background, the blue down at the bottom with Ted Williams. Just love that pose of Ted Williams there, sort of looking up at the sky with that swing of his. I think it's just a beautiful looking card. So I chose the 49 Leaf as my 5th favorite Ted Williams card. At number 4, I went with his 1955 Topps card. Again, love that second image of Ted Williams swinging there. I chose this one over his 56. The second image on his 56 card, it's cool because it shows the ball field, but his swing, I don't know, sort of looks like he just popped the ball up in the air. I don't know. This one, I like the image of him swinging a little bit better, and of course that bold portrait image there of Ted Williams that was basically recycled from 54 and 55 and 56. But I chose his 1955 Topps card as my 4th favorite. At number 3, I went with his 1954 Topps card, number 1 in the set. Love the orange background. Again, that second black and white image of that follow-through swing, that great smile of him in the larger color image, his facsimile signature there, the overall design of the 54 Topps set, just makes for a beautiful card. And while I don't normally judge the back of cards in this, the 1954 Topps card, if you're not familiar, card number 1 is the card with all his stats, and card number 250 is just full of like small little cartoons. All right, so the 1954 Topps card number 1 is my 3rd favorite. At number 2, I went with his card number 250. Now, I mentioned the back, and most people want cards with the stats of the player. I happen to think that card number 250 on the back is unique in that it's just a bunch of cartoons of Ted Williams, and that the other card has the stats. And for me, the front of the card, I just absolutely love that bright yellow background. Again, it's a really cool smaller black and white image in the background there. Love that swing. And again, that classic portrait image that Topps used, again, from 54 through 56. But the yellow and the blue from the cap and the red B and the red Ted Williams off of the yellow, I just think the color combination makes this card pop. Card number 1, the orange background, it makes it a little bit of a darker card. If you can find a 1954 Topps card number 250 with that bright yellow and it's not faded, man, that is one sharp looking card. So I had to go with card number 250 from the 1954 Topps set as my 2nd favorite Ted Williams card. And at number 1, I went with his 1954 Bowman card. This is a card for me that even when I was young, didn't get into vintage at the time. Vintage cards were based on how much money I had, were just expensive. They may have been, 10, 20, 30, $50, but when you got 50 cents for an allowance, they were just out of my price range. But I was always interested in the older cards. And this card here of Ted Williams, it's just a portrait image of him. But that smile, the fact that his cap is sort of just off kilter a little bit, just like off to the side. There's just something about this card. The sky in the background, it's not, I don't believe it's at a ballpark, although it technically could be. I don't know the actual where this image was taken, but the other fact that this card was not supposed to be made. Bowman did not have the license for Ted Williams in 1954. Topps did, and they put him in the set 2 times, card number 1 and card number 250. So when Bowman released this card, Topps said, hey, you can't do that, so they stopped production. Now, it's not a super rare card to find. You'll find them out there, but not in the same quantity as other 1954 Bowman cards. And this is a card that I've always loved and always wanted to have in my collection. So I had to go with the 1954 Bowman card as my favorite Ted Williams card. All right, let's turn the camera around and show off the Ted Williams cards that I have in my collection. All right, I consider myself very fortunate in that I have 6 Ted Williams cards in my collection. Ways away from completing his entire 15 card basic set registry checklist. The play ball cards are going to be expensive. I still have to pick up a couple Bowman cards, but the first one I have is my number 1 favorite, the 54 Bowman. I was so happy to pick this up at the National a couple years ago. Just again, I don't want to say I don't want to put too much importance on this. It's not like a dream come true, but again, this was always one that I just thought was a beautiful card. The fact that again, it wasn't even supposed to be produced, all that lore of the card, and I just think it's a great looking card. And finally, was able to add one to my collection. Here is the back. Then the next one, I do have the pair of 54 Topps cards. Here is the card number 1. Picked this up at this year's Strongsville show. Love the centering on it. And I went into the store. I won't get into the whole thing now about this card, but this was the exact card I saw at last year's National from the same dealer. He still had it in his inventory at Strongsville. And when I noticed it, and he said, yeah, this was the same. I just haven't sold it yet. I knew it had to be part of my collection. And unfortunately, we worked out a deal that I was satisfied, happy with the price I paid. So here is the back. And as you can see, this is the one that has the stats. It does have some cartoons on it, but it does give his stats and a little bit of a bio there on Ted. And then I have the card number 250, which I've had for quite some time, probably at least 10 years now in my collection. And again, just love how the bright yellow background just makes the card pop. Love the centering on it as well. And here you'll notice that it's all a series of little cartoons. So no stats, but still, I think it's a cool back to it with all the mini cartoons and little highlights over his career. So there's card number 250. Then picked this one up at, I think maybe last year's National, the 1956. I wanted to get this one. I may get the gray back at some point, but this is the white back. I just like how the white back looks, but we'll look at the front of the card here first. Really nice centering. And as you can see that again, the background image, it's cool that it has the ball field, but if you look at the image of Ted Williams him swinging it, it looks like he just popped the ball right up, and that's why I chose his 55 card as part of my top 5 rather than the 56. But still, a great looking card. And here is the back. And I just think with the colors on the back, the white back versus the gray back just shows the back more clearly, and with the colors and text and so on. There's that. Then I have his 57 Topps card, which I picked up at last year's Strongsville show. Card number 1 in that set as well. There's the back. And then finally, probably, well, other than the 1960 Flair card, which is just, it's cropped weird. I'm not sure why Flair did that, but that may be, out of the 15 cards, my least favorite. In second place is probably, I don't know, it's yellow background, which again, for vintage cards for me from the 50s, even, you know, pre-war, cards with yellow background, for whatever reason, for me, yellow and red, if you can get a nice yellow and red bright background, it just tends to make the cards pop. But he's not smiling here. He's a little bit more serious. Overall, I generally like the 58 top set, but the fact that he has so many other great cards, this is further down on the list. But again, card number 1 again, Topps was really happy to have Ted Williams exclusive to them, and put Ted Williams probably justifiably the first card in the set. And here is the back, more cartoons from the 58 set design. And you can see the previous year's stats and his lifetime stats. So there are my Ted Williams cards. So let's get to the Wheel of Names, spin it, and see which player will be the focus for the next video. Here's the Wheel of Names, and there are only 7 remaining to choose from. We have Whitey Ford, Duke Snyder, Ernie Banks, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Willie McCovey, and Harmon Killebrew. So let's see which name the wheel selects. All right, the next video is going to be on the chairman of the board, Whitey Ford. Some really nice Whitey Ford cards out there. We'll have to see which ones are on his PSA checklist for me to choose from. Should be a fun video. All right, as a final reminder here, let me know in the comments of this video which are your top 5 favorite Ted Williams cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.